Welcome back, guys, to another video. In today's West Ham video, I want to talk about the comments that were made by David Moyes about Sebastian Haller, or around Sebastian Haller, after we lost 3-0 to Chelsea yesterday. I've got the quotations right in front of me because I don't want to, on my phone, because I don't want to lose context. I want to get exactly everything right. But guys, before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button, especially if you support West Ham. We're trying to grow this West Ham community. It's my club. I love talking about it. So make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to see more West Ham videos. Now, in the press conference yesterday, guys, after the 3-0 defeat to Chelsea, David Moyes was asked if West Ham would be going into the January transfer market and looking for a striker. And the comments that were made by David Moyes following was very interesting. Now, he got asked if we would be interested in a striker. He goes, I hope I'll get Mikel Antonio back soon. If we don't, we need to think what else we can do. How else we can do it? We need options. If I'm not going to get options, I have to start looking in my own group to find another Marko Arnautovic or Antonio. Now, this is very interesting coming from David Moyes. We know publicly David Moyes doesn't really rate Sebastian Haller. Sebastian Haller, in my opinion, is a good player. He's a good player. What he done at Frankfurt proves that he's a good player. He scored 20-odd goals. He got like 10 assists. However, he just does not fit into the way David Moyes plays. David Moyes, he loves Antonio. He likes what Antonio brings to the team in terms of his work rate. Firstly, Haller does not work hard enough. Whilst I think it has improved in the last 1 to 2 weeks that we've played at Crystal Palace. You see that he's working a little bit harder off the ball, but it's just not enough. It just does not replace the hard work and the work ethic that Antonio provides. So it's very interesting because almost this is hinting that he is now fully given up on Sebastian Haller and he's willing to go into the January transfer market, or he's even willing to look at his own squad and see what he could do in terms of putting someone up front. And we are going to talk about that later in the video. But for me, whilst I think Sebastian Haller is a good player, I feel like now, it's clear to see it's just not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. And a lot of strikers' confidence comes down from the fact that the manager believing in you. And if the manager doesn't believe in you and what you can bring to the team, more than likely it's not going to work out. So for me, Sebastian Haller, I would be selling him in the summer. I don't think we'll sell him in January just because we can't rely on Mikel Antonio's fitness. However, going into the transfer market, for me, whilst, it's a player that has divided opinion within the fan base that we should go and sign him and we shouldn't go sign him. For me, I am going to say go sign Josh King. Now, guys, hear me out before you criticise me, because there's probably going to be people in this video that don't agree with me saying that we're going to sign Josh King. Now, Josh King has spent 5 seasons in the Premier League. He has scored 48 goals. Now, on average, just under 10 goals a season isn't too bad for a struggling Bournemouth team. We're a struggling Bournemouth team that sit behind the ball. They don't have a lot of possession, but sometimes when they do have possession, they can give a threat to the opposition. And obviously, Bournemouth have been relegated. Now, in terms of match fitness, he hasn't played a lot of games for Bournemouth this season. He's only played 5 games. He hasn't scored any goals. So in terms of his reflection, his goal output, in terms of the amount of games he's played so far for Bournemouth, hasn't really done anything. But the thing is that we've got to take into account is that, yes, he is gaining match sharpness. So we have to be, careful in terms of, if we were to sign Josh King, will he be able to come into this team and make a direct impact? Now, we've also got to understand Josh King, from what I can sort of understand and gather, I'll be very surprised, unless Mikel Antonio is not fit, if Josh King comes into this West Ham team and is a starting 11. Now, we've also got to take into account, whilst averaging 10 goals a season, a lot of the time where he played for Bournemouth was actually on the left wing position, because he does offer similar characteristics to what Mikel Antonio does. Mikel Antonio can run the line, he can run the channels, he can hold the ball up. Both players have got similar physiques, both have got similar strengths in terms of the way they play. They can sit on the last man on the shoulder, sit on the last shoulder of the defence. They can also come deep, hold the ball up, and in turn. That's what, in terms of what Josh King can offer West Ham, he can offer what Mikel Antonio does. However, He has been played out on the left wing because he does work hard. His work rate is exemplary. Similar to Michail Antonio, he could easily play on the left wing position because of the work rate that he does provide for the team. So I do understand that a lot of fans are not going to probably like the sign of Josh King, and I don't think it is sort of long term. He is 28, 29 years of age, so it is more or less for the short term. Whilst we can find someone long term like Sima from Slavia Prague, but he might not be explorable until the summer. So maybe for the short term, for the next 1 or 2 seasons, we might need to have Josh King. He's going to be someone that's probably going to have a squad role. Unless Michail Antonio is injured, he would then probably start, because then West Ham wouldn't have to alter the way they play too much. So for me, Josh King, I would probably sign him, just because we're probably not going to get a better player than him, who's willing to maybe play a backup role in terms of playing backup to Antonio when he's injured, and then when Antonio's fit, and then when Antonio's injured, he would then start. Now, let's go on to the other comment that David Moyes made in regards to Sebastian Haller and in regards to the striker situation. Now, he said that he might have to look within the current group of players to see if he can find someone who's maybe a wide player and maybe transition him into a striker, like he's done with Antonio, like he's done with Marko Arnautovic. Now, the first one for me, and probably the most natural player to maybe do this, is Andre Yarmolenko. Now, Yarmolenko has played up top for West Ham. If you guys remember, when Sebastian Haller started his first game for West Ham after lockdown, which was Liverpool away this season, he played pretty dreadful. He come off after about 65, 70 minutes, and Yarmolenko was put up front. Now, Yarmolenko, this position is not a strange. It's not a stranger to him. He's played up front for Ukraine in international fixtures. He has scored goals, so it is a position that he can get used to. And as long as he's getting the adequate enough game time, I feel like he could do a pretty good job. Because Yarmolenko now, the way West Ham are built in terms of the way we play, he isn't really suited to be playing as a wide player. One, because I feel like he does work hard, but he doesn't have the pace in order to dislodge Jarrod Bowen from that right wing position, because Jarrod Bowen works hard. He's got the pace, and that favours West Ham's counter-attacking transitions. With Yarmolenko, you always feel when he gets the ball on the right-hand side, he'll do a couple of step-overs. He'll slow the play down. You might see an overlap coming from a fullback. He'll cut inside on his left foot. He'll try and put a cross in. He'll try have a shot. So for me, Yarmolenko, if we could see him up front, and in that Liverpool game, when that Williams guy who started for Liverpool made his debut, he actually bullied Haller. But we saw a little bit of combination play between Yarmolenko, between Fornals and Bowen. That was enough to maybe suggest that Yarmolenko could possibly do a job. And for me, there's a lot, it's been said before in the club, Yarmolenko is probably the best finisher at the club. So if you've got the best finisher at the club, he hasn't got a lot of pace. So maybe in terms of, we might see a little bit of similarities between Haller and Yarmolenko in terms of their actual raw pace. There isn't much there. But Yarmolenko for me will probably work harder for the team than Sebastian Haller. Now, another option we could look to explore it is Said Benrahma. Now, Said Benrahma, Moyes has mentioned it in previous press conferences that he will look into Said Benrahma playing up front. Now, what do I believe with this? Now, the thing is that the way West Ham play, we need someone who can hold the ball up. We need someone who could do a bit of both. Someone who could drop deep, hold the ball up, maybe win a foul when we're struggling for a bit of possession, just to give the defence and the midfield a little bit more time to reorganise themselves. And with Benrahma, we've seen so far against Crystal Palace, whilst he is a very, technical player, he doesn't have the greatest, body stature in terms of his physicalness. He is pretty weak and he can get knocked off the ball. So for me, to play him as a central striker, whilst it does sound pretty nice, attractive in terms of the football that we could possibly play, I just don't think his physicalness in terms of what he could bring to that striker position would be adequate for David Moyes. So for me, West Ham probably do need to go out into the transfer market and maybe sign a Josh King. And we've also got someone in the ranks. Now, I apologise for the pronunciation. Yarmolenko. Sorry, guys, about the pronunciation. But he's a young striker that we signed from Manchester United. He has scored goals for the under-23s. Now, it's my understanding that the under-23s are in isolation right now. Hence why we had no under-23s on the bench against Chelsea. We had 2 goalkeepers. However, this is someone that I've seen score goals with his left or right foot. Again, fits the similar characteristics in terms of Antonio. And this is the kind of striker that David Moyes is going to, in terms of, you know, someone who could run the line, someone who could hold the ball up, someone who's a bit of a physical, you know, specimen. Because whilst Haller is 6'3", 6'4", you know, David Moyes has said on many occasions that Haller needs to toughen up. He needs to toughen up. He needs to win headers, because yesterday, Thiago Silva, who's a lot shorter than him, whilst Thiago Silva mentally is a very good centre-back, and the thing is with these centre-backs that are aging, a lot of it is anticipating the ball when it's coming, and a lot of it is mental, knowing where to position yourself at the right times. So when you're coming up against a top-tier centre-back who's been all around the world, won titles in every country he's sort of been in, you have to, you know, sort of appreciate that. But you've also got to understand that Sebastian Haller has got to be doing more. He's got to be doing more. He's got to be, if he's not going to win the header, at least make it hard for Thiago Silva to win the header. And it's not just Thiago Silva. We've seen it in the Leeds game. The first 45 minutes, he was absolutely dreadful. You know, every single time the ball got to him, the ball was just rebounding off him. The goal that West Ham conceded against Leeds was a Haller mistake, and it was a nice through ball from Cooper. So, you know, this isn't the first time that we've seen it. And whilst I do understand that he's probably not getting the service, he isn't getting the service really. But in terms of looking outside the service, he's not really doing much in terms of, whilst I said it has improved, in terms of his work rate and in terms of his actual hold-up play. I do feel like that whilst he is a big guy, he doesn't really throw his body about. He doesn't be aggressive with his body. And that is something that he needs to do if he's going to have any chance of, you know, being favoured by David Moyes. Because I feel like Michail Antonio apparently is going to be in the squad against Brighton. I feel like there's a very good chance that David Moyes may risk Antonio again against Brighton. And I feel like Antonio, who could possibly get injured because of the result of this, but I feel like David Moyes feels like his hands are tied behind his back, because the way we play in terms of no Antonio and in terms of when Haller's in the team, it's night and day. So it's a huge difference. But guys, that is going to be the end of the video. Let me know what you think of the comments made by David Moyes. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.